The second thing that I wanted to talk about was that Representative Tulsi Gabbard passes provision requiring U.S. report on humanitarian impact of U.S. sanctions on other countries. I think it's about damn time that somebody comes out and requires for some sort of investigation to be formally done into what the effects are of these sanctions, because I think that especially for a lot of these people in the Congress, they just follow whatever it is that these intelligence agencies, whatever information it is that they put out, and they don't actually understand the repercussions, the consequences of them taking these actions, these war crimes, okay, that are sanctions. And again, we have the proof in the pudding when last week they passed the Hong Kong Autonomy Act. They just so blindly want to pass these sanctions, and they have no regard for what actually is the outcome of these sanctions. So I think it's super important that she highlighted this, and they kept talking about how, you know, she was trying to see the effects of children, right? That sanctions has, and I think that it's kind of ridiculous that she would even have to kind of make the story around it being around children, because that's the only way that you actually get people. That's how you tug at people's heartstrings. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that's the only way that they'll care, is if you include the children in it. Like,
yeah. Now, I think there actually had been an independent study, not by the government, of the effects of sanctions in like Venezuela or something, right? That did show horrific impact on children and folks getting medicine and all sorts of things there. But yeah, this is obviously we need this. This is crazy.
But can you imagine like a Biden administration report on the effect of sanctions, humanitarian impact of sanctions? Is it really going to be, how objective is it going to be versus, you know, a third party report that's going to look at the actual consequences versus they're going to say, well, this is actually, you know, they're going to color it in a way that shows that it's being effective towards their goals, or whatever their goals are with the sanctions, and saying, well, it's having some humanitarian effect, but it's minimized because of A, B, and C or whatever. So obviously they're going to they're going to skew it to you know, go along with whatever their particular.
I think we'd always want like feedback from like Doctors Without Borders and independent agencies to verify.
But I mean, this is a positive step.
Just the idea that you know, maybe some Congress folks will be woken up to the fact that it's not as straightforward as Daisy was indicating, that Kim Jong-un's a bad man and we want to punish him. He's gonna feast at his table no matter what. Right. He's going to have whatever medications he needs no matter what. It's just people that are going to suffer, right?
I mean, just admitting that the sanctions have humanitarian consequences, that's a step forward, right?
Because absolutely.
Right, which I think that's the biggest thing.
That's the big thing about it, right?
Takeaway.
Absolutely, yeah. Big Talk, Little Talk did a show on each of these bills, by the way. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, and so I wanted to show the final roll call for this, right? And so we have, for the nays, look at that, Ocasio-Cortez, Omar.
How do they justify that?
Pillai.
I mean, that's just being good Pelosi soldiers. That is sick. That is sick.
I'm trying to see who else.
Amash, I see over there.
Yeah, which again, I don't understand where these stand. But that just goes to show you these people are just so, you know, they're very ideological in their stances. But
is it ideological, or is it just taking the marching orders given them? That's what to me, this seems like being good loyal soldiers of Pelosi and the
well, I think I don't want to speak on Amash's ideology, because I don't really follow him all that much, but I think for a lot of people it is this whole thing of, well, that it's collateral damage, right? Like, these are things that we need to have in place in order to protect the United States. And for a lot of these people, it is this nationalist mentality that, you know, it's just America, yes, everything else is no. Even with the China thing, it's the same thing. How, you know, and even like Big Talk, Little Talk, he keeps getting into these arguments with his panel because for him, he even said it. He's like, you're either with us or you're against us, and that is very dangerous type of mentality to have.
Yeah, I actually disagreed with him on Twitter over his coverage of this, where he was saying like, well, we have to have this ability to that's like, it was a reasonable argument. He was saying, well, we have to have ability to do something like short of war, essentially. And I'm saying, yeah, but we should agree that it should be studied what the effects of these sanctions are, so you can make knowledgeable votes, right? And yeah, so that's where I was at that. I think he essentially ended up kind of coming along with that kind of thinking, I believe.
Yeah, I just think that it's very it's a very tribalistic way of looking at things, and I think that the more tribalistic we become, the more dangerous things become, and especially when you are dealing with nuclear powers and just even the fact that economically speaking, they are such powerhouses. Like, you know, any sort of like challenge or battle that we're having with China, it affects us in more ways than just, oh, that we're just applying these sanctions over there. It does have to do with our economy. It does have to do with our just like everything, almost every facet of our lives is globally entrenched, you know, and especially with a country like China. So I don't know.
Right.
I just think it's very dangerous to think that way.
Well, that's the neoliberal model. I mean, that the U.S. is the de facto, inheritor of the British Empire. That we're going to be we can't shy away from our role as the world's leader, and creating stability. Of course, we benefit from it, but that's that model, that U.S. first, and I think I think that's what it comes down to. So you can't really talk about a multipolar world or a global power sharing, or through these international institutions. Basically, it has to be U.S. First, right? Isn't that that's what unifies the that's a duopoly. That's what unifies the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah, I wouldn't ascribe such good intentions. I think it's essentially empires. I think it's essentially the if we're not controlling everything, then then we will suffer.
Well, that's
then the top 1% will just won't continue to be as unbelievably rich as they are.
Right, but it can be rationalized in terms of we're providing stability. We're providing because we're the unipolar power in the world. We're providing that stability, so that can be justified. And by the way, of course, we're going to benefit from it, but that's just a unforeseen consequence. We're really doing this because we care about world peace and stability and all that stuff.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to put like that to like a numbers test, like how many people, what percentage of the world actually lives in a a stable
Right.
due to our rule, how many people are living it like without fear of violence? And
how about in our country, how many people live in stability and without fear of violence? Because it's getting we're not like the 1950s. It was the way it's portrayed in the media versus the way it really was. But even and now, it's obviously people are suffering, and we're becoming more and more like the third world every day.
Yeah, what's the percentage of people here that are food insecure? It's kind of huge, isn't it?
Well, it depends what you call food,
And if you like, I was trying to find the statistic, but I have seen reported in several places that we have almost like 7,000 or probably over 7,000 sanctions applied all over the world right now. That seems a little excessive,
Right.
Like that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So
like one or two would be one thing, but I don't know, like 7,000. Just
So
a little too
these
much.
numbers are from like 2018, but they're talking like 11% of households are food insecure, which is just millions and millions
And
of
it's not
people.
going to get better.
It's
Right, and you
horrific.
can't
in the
and you
short
can't
term.
even compare it to
Yeah.
data that's going to come out this year.
Yeah, and the fact that exactly, and the fact that just that that 10% military budget cut could easily have handled that and more, and build some infrastructure and so forth, and save some people from rent. And,
Jim, you're talking socialism. Just stop it.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. How can you not build 20 new aircraft carriers that we have no use for?
Right.
And
all
then
those
make
jobs,
sure, and
all
then
those
make sure
jobs.
to pass along to law enforcement all of this stuff. We
Right.
saw how it's in the N.D.A.A.
That's it. That's just another
Training and equipment, which
market.
means like how to use the weapons, right? Not about how to de-escalate a situation or whatever.
Right. It's another huge market
Oh,
for the military weapons. Yeah. Horrific. Okay.